All right, what's up, YouTube? When you guys thought it couldn't get any worse than FTX, what if I told you FTX was just the tip of the iceberg and the amount of corruption within this industry would blow your freaking mind?
I'm asking you, sir, you have a saying so that FTX has, quote, no capital requirements for participants. I think that's on its face a false statement, given that the CFTC Part 39 regulation requires capital requirements, and FTX does have a capital requirement for margins.
I said their capital requirements are not the same as they are for other institutions.
Well,
capital is not the same as margin, Congressman.
Well, sir.
So Ro Khanna, Democrat of Silicon Valley, getting emotional as he defends Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Why is that? Maybe someone will do a story to find out why. But in the meantime,
I don't know why people didn't see it, Tucker. I said to my team, this is not about crypto, Tucker. This is about him trying to change the world so he could list every single product under the scam that he was trying to do with crypto. The crypto is so small, but if he could deploy his model in the U.S. Treasury market, in the U.S. agricultural market, can you imagine the damage this human being could have done to our country and the world? When you look at the people that were with him, Tucker, Mark Wiegand, the former head of the CFTC, the chairman, he's walking around with this guy as his, baggage handler and giving him credibility. The former counsel for the CFTC became his general counsel at FTX. The former head of the ad committee, Mike Conaway, is his consultant working the room across both sides of the aisle. It's absolutely an embarrassment what went on here. And I said he could lose 85% of his value in a single day, Tucker. I said that in congressional testimony. I did not know how right I would be in such a short period of time.
And let's start with the biggest, Digital Currency Group. Ready? Let's get it. So when we talk about having a monopoly on crypto, Digital Currency Group, they own everything. If there was ever a monopoly, I would say that this would most likely be it. They are invested in the crypto exchange Coinbase, Genesis, Kraken. They're invested in stable coins. They own the media outlet CoinDesk. They own ChainAlysis, the #1 crypto reporting agency that reports to the government. They're invested in FTX Exchange, EToro Exchange, and another 120-something companies. So let's start off with what Fox News has reported to us. So Fox News reporters, big shout out to Jesse Walters.
The Democratic Party finds itself in the middle of the biggest financial fraud case in U.S. history. A cryptocurrency company just lost $2 billion of its customers' money. They didn't just lose it in the market, it's just gone. Someone stole it. And the company called FTX just went bankrupt after they blew up $32 billion.
Tucker Carlson, Will Kane, and Charlie Payne for reporting what they consider the greatest Ponzi scheme in world history, fueled by corrupt government officials and regulators who helped SBF build a money laundering empire to fund a political agenda. Then if we swing over and we take a look at CNBC, Kate Rooney was telling us he was the Michael Jordan of crypto. Andrew Sorkin, Michael Jordan of crypto.
The Michael Jordan of crypto, if you will. Sam Bankman-Fried has really played a key role in the crypto industries. Just the role in the industry this year. And
the big shot Kevin O'Shady, the greatest trader of all time.
His parents, you've never met nicer people than that. Sam, if 9 out of 10 people I talk to that have met him don't think he has an evil bone in his body. The guy was a really interesting guy. I still like the guy.
If SBF knocked on your door again and said, look, I failed in my last venture. I have a new crypto venture. I need money. Would you back him?
I think we can all admit he was one of the most brilliant traders in the crypto universe. I really like what he built.
Would you back him?
The answer would be yes. You're going to find, assuming that he will be found somewhere else in crypto. I know all the players in the crypto market, and I'm just telling you, there's nobody quite like him. I'm transparent, I'm honest.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, Sam Bankman-Fried is an unusual 1% person. And if I could put him on my team, yeah, I would.
What do you think?
Yeah, so I think it's going to burn, this story will burn out in 48 hours, and I'll tell you why. Gensler's agenda and his calendar is public.
Did he think he was too big to fail because he had regulators in his pocket? You're bulletproof when you can buy politicians. And this guy was planning on buying Biden with $1 billion.
Jim Cramer, the JP Morgan of crypto, which leads us into the New York Times puff piece by Kelsey Piper, if I'm saying that right. this one even sparked Elon Musk to say, "Why the puff piece, New York Times?" Kim.com said, "Spin doctor at work for the Democrats' golden money laundering donor boy." Lance Gooden said, "Elon Musk spent $44 billion to bring back free speech. Sam Bankman-Fried scammed billions of people. Guess which one the Democrats are more outraged by?" Peanut Arbuckle says, "The writer who wrote the puff piece about SBF has also been attacking Jesse Powell all year for not being woke." So if you just do a simple Google search and you search FTX hacked Bahamas government and you look every way I can search for it, the first original article was by the New York Post. They were the first one to report that the Bahamas government had agreed or had ordered SBF to attack or hack FTX. So the same media outlets that are behind the puff pieces were also the first ones to report that the Bahamas government was behind the FTX hack. So we had to rely on our own community. ZachXBT coming in clutch. I have seen a ton of misinformation being spread on Twitter and in the news about FTX events, so let me debunk the 3 most common things I've seen. Bahaman officials are behind the FTX hack. Exchanges know who the hacker is. FTX hacker is trading meme coins. This was the New York Post. Sam Bankman-Fried was ordered by the Bahamian government to hack FTX after crypto bankruptcy, FTX tells court. Also, Reuters. Again, Reuters, the New York Times, and CNBC have done the worst job of reporting in human history. The first clue that 0x59 was the black hat and not the Bahamian officials and or the FTX team was when 0x59 began selling tokens for ETH, DAI, and BNB and using a variety of bridges so crypto couldn't be frozen on 11/12. Also look at the slippage on those swaps. And you can actually see the slippage and everything right here on these swaps. Thread 3, the fact 059X was dumping tokens and bridging sporadically was very different behavior from the other addresses who withdrew from FTX and instead sent to a multi-sig on-chain like Ethertron. It shows the examples of the wallet addresses. The next clue was 0x59 on 11/12 sent 3,168 BNB via BSC to 0x24 and then to Hobie. 0x24 has very sus behavior on-chain using sketchy services such as small Russian exchanges, Lazalobit. This behavior completely differs from what was said about the debitor moving assets to cold storage or the Bahamian government moving assets to Fireblocks. And then this thread down here says, these balances exclude cryptocurrencies not currently under debitor's control as a result of at least 372 million of unauthorized transfers initiated on the petition date, during which time the debitors immediately began moving cryptocurrency into cold storage to a multi-sig to mitigate the risk to remaining cryptocurrencies that are accessible at this time. Another clue was earlier today, the Black Hat began to sell ETH for REN BTC and then use the REN bridge. The funds will likely be sent to a mixer at some point in the future. So now we already know that the New York Times, CNBC, and Reuters has been completely playing softball for some odd reason. Why is that? Check out this clip from Tucker Carlson. Okay, now let's talk about what Digital Currency Group is and how big and quite possibly corrupt Digital Currency Group is and what that would look like for this industry. In my personal opinion, the best thing that could happen to this industry, these crooked, corrupt individuals tried to turn the crypto industry into Wall Street 2.0. They were buying the media outlets, they were buying the exchanges, they were creating the stable coins. They were using their connections and donations and everything to lobby politicians and put regulators into positions and fund legislation in Washington. All of this while at the same time owning the exchange, the media outlet, the newslet, the stock exchange, the crypto, this. I mean, it's the definition of a monopoly. How can this happen? So let's just kick it right off. Digital Currency Group. Genesis balance sheet reveals a web of loans across Silbert's empires. Barry Silbert is the founder and owner of Digital Currency Group. Genesis has $2.8 billion in outstanding loans on the balance sheet. Bloomberg reported earlier that Genesis sought fresh capital. This leads us into Coinbase. Bankruptcy fears for crypto firm Genesis. Grayscale refuses to show proof of reserves. Coinbase CEO says company holds 2 million Bitcoin. He reminds people that the firm's financials are public. And then if we go down to the on-chain analytics from CoinGlass, it shows that, and this must be their hot wallet maybe, that there are only 483,027 Bitcoin on CoinDesk. So some things aren't adding up. And this leads us into a deleted tweet by CZ that says, so Coinbase custody holds 635,000 BTC for Grayscale. 4 months ago, Coinbase, I assume exchange, has less than 600,000 Bitcoin. And he shows the link right here. Just stating news reports, not making any claims. Glassnode probably has more up-to-date data. This was a news article by Decrypt on February 25th of 2021. Coinbase holds 230 million in Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Then if I come over to this article on October 22nd, the top 3 cold storage wallets as of October 22nd of 2022. Binance and Bitfinex have the largest Bitcoin wallets. One Binance cold wallet holds 252,597 BTC, while the other holds 143,314 BTC. On the other hand, Bitfinex cold wallet contains 168,010 BTC. The crypto exchanges may not necessarily own all of these coins because they also hold users' Bitcoin deposits. The 3 wallets contain 2.9% of Bitcoin's total circulating supply as of October 13th, 2022. As of October 13th, 2022, there were 19,177,431 BTC coins out in circulation. So somehow, magically, Coinbase is holding 625,000 Bitcoin for Grayscale Trust, but they can't prove it, or they're not willing to prove it. Something's not adding up, and it gets worse. Now, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you guys have probably seen me run through the 2022 crypto crime report. This is the ChainAlysis crypto crime report. And if we go through here, I was just, wow, man. I was going through all the big hacks that happened in 2021 and 2022. I couldn't find any of them. I found a few of the smaller ones, a few random ones. And if you go through this report, it just makes crypto look horrible. So if I was trying to generate a report that would make crypto look a certain way, so I could lobby for certain specific regulations based off a crime report that is generated by the company that owns the media outlet, owns the reporting agency, reports to the government, and then provides them with data that they use to build crypto regulations. And this is why I could never figure out. I was like, where is the Luna hack in here? Where are all these other Ponzi schemes that went bust? It was like I could only find the ones that they specifically wanted to report on. Really funky. So then I started looking into ChainAlysis. Crypto boom continues as ChainAlysis raises 100 million, doubles its valuation to over $2.8 billion. So then I started digging into the ChainAlysis revenues, right? ChainAlysis estimated annual revenue is currently 178.5 million per year. ChainAlysis received 30 million in venture funding in February of 2019. ChainAlysis estimated revenues per employee are $185,900. ChainAlysis total funding is 537 million. ChainAlysis current valuation is 8.6 billion as of May 2022. So they're saying ChainAlysis total funding is 537 million. Crypto boom continues as ChainAlysis raises 100 million, doubles its valuation to over 2 billion. ChainAlysis raises 100 million at a $4.2 billion valuation to execute vision as the blockchain data platform. This first one was March 26th of 2021. This second one was a few months later, I want to say in June. Then on May 12th of 2022, ChainAlysis raises 170 million at a $8.6 billion valuation. Then if I look over here, I see 12 different funding rounds. So over the last 2 or 3 years, this company has raised capital 12 different times, and they do nothing but report data. How is a company that does nothing but just report data more valuable than some of the largest legacy businesses in the world? This just doesn't adding up. How are these companies raising all this capital? Let's keep going. Now let's talk about Grayscale. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is a digital currency investment product that individual investors can buy and sell in their own brokerage accounts. On January 21st of 2020, it became an SEC reporting company, registering its shares with the commission and designating the trust as the first digital currency investment vehicle to attain the status as a reporting company by the SEC. The Grayscale Bitcoin Trust debuted as the Bitcoin Investment Trust on September 25th of 2013 as a private placement to accredited investors and later on received FINRA approval for eligible shares to trade publicly. This means that investors may have access to buy and sell public shares of the trust under the symbol GBTC. So according to Grayscale, Coinbase custody holds 635,000 BTC on behalf of Grayscale that refuses to show proof of reserves. And that was on 11/21/22. So now I want to talk about all of the companies that are connected to Digital Currency Group. So over here we have Elliptic, Coinbase, Genesis, Kraken, FTX, BitPay, Grayscale, EToro, ChainAlysis, Luno, Brave, and Paradigm. So Paradigm, in my opinion, is just like another digital currency group. It's this massive company that came out of nowhere and somehow was worth $2.5 billion. So this $2.5 billion hedge fund over here, Grayscale, is supposed to be worth $90 billion. You have an internet browser. So if I wanted to direct traffic or dictate what articles were found or what articles were not found, I would have the internet browser, supposed to be the decentralized browser of crypto, right? I have the ChainAlysis, the company that generates reports and reports to the government. I have crypto exchange, crypto exchange, crypto exchange, crypto lending exchange, crypto exchange. And then we come to BitPay, right? So BitPay, what's BitPay? Let's find out. So Kevin O'Leary backed DeFi platform WonderFi to purchase BitBuy for $162 million in cash/shares. The deal gives WonderFi one of Canada's fastest growing crypto platforms, adding 375,000 registered users. So Kevin O'Shady buys BitBuy on January 4th of 2022 for $162 million. January 4th of 2022, May 2nd of 2022. According to Wikimedia Foundation, shutters BitPay accounts, halting crypto donations. The Wikimedia Foundation decided it had enough of crypto as 71% decided to ban all digital asset donating and to close BitPay accounts. BitPay fails to resolve BTC freeze. According to the social media exchange on August 23rd, the embattled cryptocurrency payment processor is facing fresh criticism after it failed to allow $100,000 in Bitcoin donations to go through. Imagine that. Kevin O'Leary takes over BitPay and then allows the Canadian government to force them to not allow donations to go to Freedom of Convoy. That doesn't surprise me. Now let's talk about Genesis. Genesis, July 29th, 2021. Genesis Digital Asset raises $125 million USD to build new data centers in the USA and Nordic region. Genesis on 9/21/2021. Bitcoin miner Genesis Digital Assets raises $431 million in fresh capital. Bitcoin mining company Genesis Digital said on Tuesday that it had raised $431 million in funding round led by crypto-focused investment firm Paradigm, taking advantage of raising investor interest in the cryptocurrency sector. The round also included Bitcoin-focused financial services firm NYDIG, crypto firm FTX, venture capital firm Rabbit, and Electric Capital, and UK-based private equity fund Kingways Capital. Kingway Capital also invested $125 million in Genesis Digital Assets in July to help amid the miner expansion. Genesis, fallback of Genesis trading from Three Arrows Capital. The lack of liquidity Genesis is undergoing is not only because of FTX, it is largely attributed to the fall of Three Arrows Capital in the aftermath of the Terra Luna collapse. Genesis was the biggest creditor to Three Arrows Capital, lending $2.4 billion. After Three Arrows Capital went bankrupt, Genesis filed a $1.2 billion claim against them. When Three Arrows Capital failed to provide the required collateral, the parent company of Genesis Digital Currency Group stepped in and assumed the $1.2 billion claim, leaving Genesis with no outstanding liabilities to Three Arrows Capital. By Q3 of 2022, their market activity drastically fell, with loan originations falling from $50 billion in Q4 of 2021 to a mere $8.4 billion. So I don't know in the real world or any business that can take a $10 million, $20 million hit, let alone a $1.2 billion hit. How are all of these companies, $300 million loss, $157 million, $70 million loss, $30 million loss, $1.2 billion loss. Now the FTX losses, it just does not add up, guys. Something stinks. Smell that? Bullshit. So let's go at it again. Genesis raises $200 million in a Tiger-led round to grow its financial-focused low-code application platform, and that was on February 16th of 2022. On March 15th of 2022, Genesis raises $45 million to expand its fintech-focused low-code platform to move verticals. Top executives from Genesis and Galaxy are raising a $500 million fund. Genesis Global raises $200 million in addition funding to drive IT innovation. According to the document released by the US SEC in October this year, Genesis participated in the insurance of GBTC as a distributor. So FTX being insolvent, FTX's books not adding up, FTX being quote unquote a lot of shady things, and we know for a fact that the FTX Ponzi scheme could have never got to the size that it got without government involvement. You had to have had regulators, you had to have had inside people, you had to be paying people off, you had to be bribing people, because the FTX Ponzi scheme was so obvious. Not only was it obvious, the CEO of CMC Group, reported and testified and got his ass handed to him by our congressmen who were defending FTX. This guy was in Congress trying to expose FTX, was laying it all out there, submitted reports, submitted documents, and guess what regulators did? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And now guess who's reporting on this? Guess who's investigating this? A majority of people are catching fat donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. How is this possible? So how are we letting corrupt individuals that helped SBF mastermind this complete and utter Ponzi scheme, yet we are not holding anybody accountable for what they actually did? So if I'm reading this right, we now have Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler.
I said he could lose 85% of his value in a single day, Tucker. I said that in congressional testimony. I did not know how right I would be in such a short period of time. It was a completely fraught proposal, what he was doing. I knew he was a fraud the day I met him, and it was quite easy to pick out.
Well, so you assessed his character and his vibe because you met with him in person, but you also assessed the fundamentals of his company as someone involved in business would. Why did none of the regulators do that? Where was Gary Gensler?
Well, I don't know where Gary Gensler was, but my regulator at the CFTC, I asked them, why in the world are you invoking the Commodity Exchange Act, Section 5, Paragraph B, which says the commission will entertain innovation? It also says in that same part of the act that you will protect market under surveillance and everything else to protect the consumers that are using those markets. They were using that. I want to know, was there pressure put on the agency from politicians or not? And there's hearings coming up. I hope someone has the courage to take on the commissioner of the CFTC and others and ask them why they were trying to put a round hole in a square peg. They should have dismissed his proposal out of hand. Instead, I was forced to go into Congress, get berated by people that don't know what they're talking about, and I told them what could potentially happen. And again, it did happen.
Who all have direct connections to Sam Bankman-Fried. These are the regulators who were supposed to be looking out for us. These are the regulators who were supposed to be regulating crypto so that this didn't happen. And instead, they were sitting back watching this monumental Ponzi scheme be built out. And this could have never got off the ground if anybody with a brain would have looked into this. So you're telling me Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Shark Tank, the ultimate investment guru with a giant team, spent zero time researching and did no research looking into FTX's business?
When anyone tries to pin SBF down on where he made his money, you can't get a cogent answer. Who financed you? Because you clearly didn't have the money. And his partner is a guy named Gary Wang. And no one can find shit on Gary Wang. And he's on the board of advisors of Sequoia. And I shit you not. You look up Sequoia stuff, there's a picture of Gary Wang of his back facing a computer. But nothing here fits. Everything reads like this thing is a complete scam. And I think this thing is dirty and rotten to the core.
This was a post by Genesis on November 9th of 2022. We want to provide an update on where things currently stand with our lending business. In anticipation of the extreme market volatility yesterday, we hedged and sold collateral, resulting in a total loss of $7 million across all counterparties, including Alameda. So on November 9th, they quote unquote stated that they only had $7 million worth of exposure to FTX and Alameda. Next post, November 10th, about 20 hours later, give or take. As part of our goal in providing transparency around this week's market events, the Genesis Derivatives business currently has $175 million in locked funds in our FTX trading account. This does not impact our market making activities. So right here, Genesis just stated that they are a market maker. Genesis is a market maker that is owned by Digital Currency Group. And Digital Currency Group owns what? 5 exchanges? Then they own the media outlet. Then they own the market maker. Then they own the... What doesn't Digital Currency Group own? Everything. This post was by Look On Chain. Data about GBTC. According to CoinGlass, Grayscale currently holds 633,000.64K Bitcoin. Total 10.68 billion, a decrease of 1,115 BTC in the past 30 days. This reduced 1,115 BTC is the 2% annual fee charged by Grayscale. So Grayscale is charging people 2% annually. So if all that Bitcoin that they're holding, they're making rough 1,115 BTC per year. And that's what supposedly left over the last couple days. So it looks like they sold off 1,115 BTC. Value, just to give you guys an idea, that's only $16 million. FTX reaches a $32 billion evaluation after a $400 million fundraise. The investment values the crypto exchange at the same levels as Duchess Boris and more than NASDAQ or Twitter. So this is the part where we really need to start asking the question, where in the mother F do these evaluations come from? How is somebody investing or raising $400 million and then all of a sudden magically they're worth $32 billion? We saw Andreessen Horowitz do it with Yuga Labs and ApeCoin. They invested $400 million in ApeCoin and somehow that made ApeCoin have a value of $8 billion. Insane. I wish I could print my coins out of thin air and then go to my buddy and say, hey man, give me $100,000 and we'll put it in Matacoin. And then all of a sudden, because Joe Schmo put in $100,000, now all of a sudden Matacoin is worth what, $2 billion? This must be nice to be these VCs, man. Now let's talk about the media, because they're always the ones we can trust, right? Let's talk about CoinDesk's fine print. The leader in news and information on cryptocurrency, digital assets, and the future of money. CoinDesk is a media outlet that strives for the highest journalistic standards and abides by a strict set of editorial policies. CoinDesk is an independent operating subsidiary of Digital Currency Group, which invests in cryptocurrencies and blockchain startups. As a part of their compensation, certain CoinDesk employees, including editorial employees, may receive exposure to DCG equities in the form of a stock appreciation rights, which vest over a multi-year period. CoinDesk journalists are not allowed to purchase stock outright in DCG. So drop a comment below, guys, and let me know what you guys think of this video so far. How is it possible for somebody to own the exchange, which reports to regulators, own the analytics company, which provides all of the analytic data to all of these regulators, and we know that the politicians in Wall Street, they can't analyze a crypto crime report. If you say it does, they believe it does. Period, plain and simple. Then, anytime you're looking for information about a project, where's the first place you go? CoinDesk. What else is CoinDesk invested in? Gemini? Crypto exchange Gemini suffers $485 million rush of outflows amid contagion fears. Gemini suspended its yield earning program, shaking users' confidence in the exchange. Winklevoss faithful have a $700 million problem in Genesis halt. Genesis suspends withdrawals in the aftermath of FTX's collapse. Customers of Gemini Earn, a big Genesis lender, left in limbo. Pretty crazy, right? Now guess who else Digital Currency Group's invested in? EToro. Can anybody find me any information on EToro or their proof of reserves? I don't know about you guys, but in the bull run, I could not get on Twitter and not find an EToro ad. So how is one of quote unquote the biggest, the best, the greatest places to trade crypto, buy, sell all your digital assets? How is EToro not showing us their balance sheet? Has anybody looked into EToro? Has anybody even talked about EToro? How is EToro completely flying under the radar? What about Robinhood? Guess who's invested in EToro? Digital Currency Group. Now let's talk about Paradigm. Paradigm is an investment firm focused on supporting the crypto, Web3 companies, and protocols of tomorrow. Our approach is flexible, long-term, multi-stage, and global. We often get involved at the earliest stages of information, and we continue supporting our portfolio companies over time. So Paradigm, a crypto VC firm, Paradigm debuts with a monster $2.5 billion fund. That was on November 15th of 2021. Paradigm's investments in FTX write down to zero, says co-founder. Crypto VC Multicoin Capital has assets frozen with FTX bankruptcy pending. Then we take a look at, well, okay, maybe Paradigm has done really good with that $2.5 billion investment. They're invested in BlockFi, ChainAlysis, Coinbase, Fireblocks, Fractals, FTX US, Genesis Digital, and MoonPay. Ponzi scheme, collapsed, Ponzi scheme, collapsed, not really sure, might be on the verge of bankruptcy. Paradigm Crypto Policy Council enlists Paul Ryan among other DC vets. Georgetown University's Chris Berman will also serve as a senior advisor for the well-connected group. And last but not least, let's talk about Elliptic. So I swing over to Elliptic's website, right? Bringing compliance to crypto assets, blockchain analytic, training, and certification for crypto businesses, financial institutions, and regulators. Managing financial crime risk, achieving regulatory compliance, and grow with confidence. Then if you come over here and you actually just take a look at the amount of times that Elliptic has had main front page articles wrote on CoinDesk, it would blow your mind. More than anything I've ever seen. So now we have another company that's creating all the reporting, doing all the crime tracking, reporting all of the data that they want regulators to see. These reporting companies can choose or not to choose what data to report. Ability for people like this to manipulate blockchain data to get a specific result that they want, unlike anything we've ever seen. It blows my mind. So we have a company like Digital Currency Group that has and controls everything. And we just had breaking news break out that they have been mismanaging funds or moving funds between business entities. We own this company. We can borrow a little bit out of their piggy bank, move it over here, move it over here, move it over here, raise capital, hide this. And then what? Our ChainAlysis software that's supposed to be reporting all this data magically just doesn't report it? Those transactions just go missing from our analytic reports. Like, this is where it starts to get really, really corrupt. And I just don't see how a player like Digital Currency Group walks out of this. I mean, every piece of capital that they raised money for, all the money that they claim to have, did they pay taxes on it? Was it inspected? Was it regulated? Or were they in bed with FTX? Were they part of this Ponzi scheme? How could a company as big as Grayscale, how could a company as big as Digital Currency Group, with all of their connections, all of their analytics tools, all of their data, not uncover the FTX Ponzi scheme so long ago? These are supposed to be the biggest experts in the crypto space, and yet they didn't figure it out. They didn't tip us off. We all sat here and watched the FTX Ponzi scheme play out for how long? 2.5 years, 3 years? And not one of these giant empires, not one of these crypto hedge funds, not one of these multi-chain, multi-coin, multi-this, multi-that, not one of them could look out for us. Not one of them could uncover this. BitBoy was really the first one to tip this off. I mean, I don't know how much worse this could have got, but it could have got really bad. Check out this. Direct connections to Washington. Direct connections to the Bahama government being corrupt. We can't trust anything that the Bahamian government says, obviously, right? We can't trust anything that multiple media outlets say. The only news outlet or news agency that's actually reporting on this as it happens is Fox News, right? We know that there were both Republicans and Democrats, 10 or 20 to 1 for Democrat donations versus Republican donations. And the only few Republican donations that were made were like the head of regulators, right? So we have government corruption, we have money laundering, we have embezzlement, we have fraud, we have scams, we have Ponzi schemes, we have biggest Ponzi scheme in world history, 100 times bigger than Madoff. The contagion that's going to come from this is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. We're seeing all of the corrupt individuals and all of these moon pay and this pay and that pay and BitGo and Bit this and Bit that, and all of these corrupt individuals that were trying to basically create a monopoly with regulators to prevent and make it harder for the middle class American to make money, make smart investments, get out of the rat race. This entire industry makes me sick, and I don't know how bad it's going to get, but it's going to get bad. And I wouldn't be able to be here if it wasn't for every one of you guys. So I appreciate everybody that goes out of their way to hit that like button and share my content. You guys been in the live streams the last couple of days. You guys know that we are shadow banned. You guys know that we've been having a hard time growing this channel, and I wouldn't be able to be here and keep putting out content like this if it wasn't for everybody that goes out of their way to share my content, like, subscribe. Again, my name's Ryan Mehta. I'll catch you guys in the next one. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing stated in this video is a fact. I am not a financial advisor, and this video is not investing advice.